What's up, everyone? Back for episode 10 of our full site build. Today we're going to build out our services section, which I have a tab element here that we're going to use along with some service cards. You'll notice we get to use our section intro again. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I know I'm going to need some dynamic data to pull in for these. So the very first thing I'm going to do is go into MetaBox, create some custom fields. And in here, I'm going to call this my service group. It's going to be for our service post type. All right, and we're going to need a handful of fields. The first one I'm going to do is a text field. I'm going to call this a tab title. I know I used this in a previous one, so let me just double check what I used there. Yep. And next is going to be a text area. I'm going to call this service overview. I'm going to add a single image, and we're going to use this as our service icon. Going to add in 2 WYSIWYG fields, so I usually just duplicate them right away. First one is going to be my tab content top. So if I go back in here, you can see I have some text here and I have some text here. I want to be able to add that dynamically here. So I'm going to add those two here. Tab content bottom. Let's take a look. So we got our service title, which I'll just use the actual title of the service. I'll use the service overview here, and this will be our icon. And then this is the tab title I was talking about. I do want to shorten these a little bit just so they look better. And as we get into the mobile version of this, it will work out a little bit better. So I have the tab title, overview, icon, and 2 content fields. I'm going to go ahead and save changes on this. I'm going to come over to my services. I'm going to go to my main plumbing service. For this one, I'm just going to put in the tab title for right now as plumber. I'm doing plumber because that matches what my actual Google Business Profile title would be. Even though up here we have plumbing, this way we're having 2 different versions of that keyword. I'm not going to put in a service overview yet, but I am going to copy all of this text for now into here. And we got both of those. I don't need an icon for this one yet, although I will add that in eventually. I suppose actually I'll just put one in for now. We'll use this as the plumbing icon. Hit save. I'm going to go into my fixture installation. For my media, this one, I believe, we're using this one. Because we're not having a tab, I'm not going to do a tab title because I'm happy with our title that we're using up here. My service overview, I'm just going to put this in, and I'm going to change this to just so that when we actually have these dynamically outputting, we can tell that they're actually the correct ones. The rest of this I'm going to leave blank for now. Next we have leak detection. Same thing. Can't remember if I had an icon specifically for that. Looks like maybe I should have used that water droplet, which I don't think I have loaded in here. I think I'll just go with my water one for now. I'm happy with that. I already have that copied for my overview. And I'm happy with that one. Gonna hit save. Next one is on the following page. We got outside faucets. Which is going to be this one. Paste this in. Save. All services. Pipe repair. Our icon for that, I believe, is going to be this one here. Next we have plumbing repair. With an icon. I think I'll probably use the same plumbing icon because I don't know that we're going to use it on that main one, but we'll start with that for now. Can always come back and change it later. And then our last one is going to be sump pumps. And I'm not sure what I'm going to use for this icon. I'll have to come back to that one, I think. I'll just put another wrench in here. All right, so that should be all of our plumbing services. So that should get us through everything we need to build out our very first tab. So let's now go ahead and jump into the builder. I'm going to launch Etch. Going to add in a new section. We'll call this service section. Our container will be our inner. We'll add in our section intro. move that above our inner. Scroll down so we can see this. And let's take a look at what we need for our items here. We want our services. We want this. And I'm going to have to put my span on here. Okay. And then we need our lead. And we got that built out. Perfect. I'm going to hit save just so we have that. Next, we're going to add in this tab element. I already have this pre-built and I'll walk through it a little bit. I didn't want to spend the entire video just building out the tab element. I may, in another video, talk about building it out, but I didn't want to fully do that in here. I do have this available inside of the Etch circle, and that's what we're going to do right now, is go ahead and grab that. Actually, before we do that, inside my inner, I'm going to add in another flex wrapper. I don't know that we're going to need it, but I'm going to add it in for right now just to be safe. I'm going to bend this out, and everything is bemmed. So inside my content wrapper, I'm going to come over to the inner circle here, or in the Etch circle, and if you search for looped tabs, you'll find this in here. I can't do a control all, I guess. Copy all of this, come back over into Etch. I'm going to right click and paste, and you can see that we are getting our tabs filling out here. Now, inside of our tabs, I'll kind of walk through this a little bit. You'll notice that it's not an actual component, and I wanted to do that to make sure that it's easily editable, as it's going to change a lot for everyone's needs, including what is going to be inside there when I made it. So it is fully built out with BEM classes. If I go in and show my JavaScript editor, you will see I have some JavaScript in here. I'll go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. The way I have this set up is it is set up to use loops. So you can see I have two loops in here, one for the header part and one for the actual content part. And the way I have the JavaScript working is that it automatically detects each tab and connects it with the panel based on the order of it. That way I don't have to manually enter IDs for each one to ensure that it meets the proper semantic and accessible needs as we go through this. So by using the JavaScript to do that for me, I can add one tab, or I could have 15, and it's automatically gonna make it work for me. So it's all done with the JavaScript in there. It's tied based on a lot of the different classes that we use. It's keyboard navigatable. We can focus inside of it. You can use a screen reader to look through it. And I'll demo that I'll demo the keyboard navigation. I'm not going to do the screen reader just because that gets a little overbearing. But just wanted to briefly walk through that. I'm going to go ahead and turn the JavaScript panel off just so it doesn't take up all that space. And you'll also notice on the main tab wrapper here, I have a lot of locally scoped variables here to make it easy to edit stuff without having to go into each piece. So I have it based on the tab styling and the panel styling. So inside the header, you'll see we have our tab list, we have our loop, a list item, a button, and inside the button we have our text. Inside the panels, which is considered our content, I have another loop. I have my actual panel itself and then the content inside the panel. So the panels is the wrapper of all of them, same with the header and the tab list, and then each item is an individual one. So the loop is the same exact loop for both of these. And the way I have it set up, and I'll make this a little bit bigger so we can see this, is I have it called a service loop, just our normal WordPress post loop. I have it set to services. I have an argument in here with an automatic fallback, just in case we don't have anything in here. So right now I can go in and set my post per page if I want using an argument. And if I don't do that, it's set to show all of the posts. The other thing I did, because remember we in our setup are using parent and child post types here, I need to go in and set my loop to only show the parent posts. So post parent equals 0. So that way it's only going to show the parent here. So we can go out of the loop and back in here. So right now you can see we're just showing plumber on this. And let's take a look here to make sure everything is working as desired. So as we look at this, the first thing we'll probably go through is finishing our styling. So starting at the top here, the header background, I'm going to leave transparent. The tab background color right now, we are primary, and I want to change that to secondary. So it's our blue color. And we should have white as our font color, which we do. It's the text light, font weight 600. Our hover color is primary hover. I'm actually going to change that to secondary hover. So you can see, just get a slight change as we go there. The text color should remain the same. Our active background color, so when that one is clicked, we want that to be our primary color. So I'm going to leave that as primary. Our font color should be set to, I'm going to change this to our secondary. I'm going to go dark. I believe that's what we use in here. Secondary dark, perfect. Our outline color, I'm going to leave as, nope, I'm going to change that to secondary as well, just so it matches. Our padding, I'm going to leave all the same. I don't need to change any of that. My content, I don't need, I want actually that to be white. So right now, our tab content background is set to neutral ultralight. I'm going to take out our fallback and I'm going to change this to our, I believe it's BG light. Our content font color should be text dark and outline color is primary. I'm happy with that. I'm going to take out this fallback because I don't need it in my case. All right, I'm happy with that here. Hit save. Let's take a look on the front end and see what we have so far. You can see we're getting that showing up properly here. The reason we're not seeing any of these other ones is because I didn't actually go in and add in a title on these. So let's go ahead and do that quick. Just opening these in additional tabs because it's easier to do it that way. So I'm going to call this one cooling. I'm going to hit save. This one is going to be drain cleaning. Just shorten that up a little bit. Save. This one is going to be heating. Save. This one's going to be water heaters. And I think that was all of them. Okay, let's go double check the front end here again. And you can see those are all showing up now. When I click them, you can see those are working out properly. All right, let's come back in here. I'm going to refresh the builder so it populates those. I want to double check one thing inside my custom fields here. I may have had a typo somewhere. Should be service overview. Okay, let's double check this in the builder. Expand this all out. On my content, I have this set to item.metabox.service overview. So I would be seeing something, but we don't have a service overview for any of these top ones. So I'm going to actually change that on this very first one to my tab content top. And you can see we're getting all of the HTML in that. So on this item, I'm going to right click it and I'm going to convert to raw HTML. And you can see it fixes that for me. I am going to duplicate this. And now we're going to see our second content item. And this one, I will change our dynamic data to bottom. And we can see we get that one in there as well. We'll have to probably play with the spacing of all of this, but we'll get to that in a minute because we want our actual paragraphs to be separated here. I want to double check this on the front end. I'm going to hit refresh. Going to inspect. All right, and inside here you can see we have a empty paragraph tag followed by the paragraph tag from our actual WYSIWYG editor. So what I think I'm going to do on both of these is I'm going to just create these as divs. So that we don't have a p tag inside of a p tag. Also, I'm going to set our flex column and a gap of content gap. That actually ends up probably being a little bit too big. So I'm going to change this to space S. No XS, I'm happy with that. Inside my actual panel here, I think I'm going to also need to add some additional styling here. So inside here, I'm going to add a flex row, and that actually should have been column. And here we want to set our gap as the content gap, there as well. And our panels seems to have lost our class. So I'm going to put that back in and hopefully everything shows back up here. And it did not. Let me double check something here. I'm not sure what happened on that. I've noticed a few times that I've had some classes disappear on me randomly. Just want to double check that these are all still there. And they are. So I'm not sure why that one wasn't there. I don't think I accidentally removed it. I have this open in another tab, so I'm just going to copy this over and paste it in. One error I did find earlier is that on my color, I had this accidentally set as the tab content BG instead of content font color. So that should be right there. And if we go back up to here, our content BG, maybe this needs to be ultralight. That did not solve it, so let's just go white on that. It still didn't change it, so let's double check that. Tab content BG, background tab content BG. Oh, and it actually looks white now. Okay, we are good there, and our padding is there. So I'm gonna hit save. And I think we are good on that point. Let me double check the front end now. Our actual, oh, actually that should be our gray background. I keep changing this on accident. My apology, y'all. All right, back to our tabs here and BG light. I'm gonna go ultra light. There we go. Save. Refresh. All right, now that's looking a little bit better. This other content will build out. I'll probably do this off video just so you guys don't see me just putting in a bunch of content that's not something you really need to watch me do over and over again. The fact is just building out the first one here is going to be the important part. I'm going to drag this back down because we don't need to see as much of it anymore. The next thing I'm going to do is inside my panel here, I'm going to add in another wrapper. And this one, I am going to move into the middle. This one, I might have to make this a little bit. Oh, the other thing I can show you quick is as I drag this down, we can see the tabs get a little bit smaller. The text will wrap as needed. And I believe it's at 500 pixels. It's going to go into a stacked position, but we do have it set to wrap earlier if it needs to. And then at 500 pixels, it goes to the stacked version. So that's just something I wanted to show you guys here quick. My flex div, I'm going to call this my service list. I'm going to change this to a UL. Inside of here, I'm going to add in a flex div. I'm going to change this to an LI. I need to drag this a little more so I can actually get a hold of this. In this one, we're going to call list item. Then inside of here, we are going to add in our actual card, or our service card. My service card is going to consist of an icon wrapper, a heading, a description, and a button. I think I will use a clickable parent on this, so we'll set that up as well. So inside my card, I don't think I'm going to need additional wrappers. I'm going to go with a heading, text. I'm just going to go text again because our button is just going to be more decorative than an actual button itself. And then I'm going to add in a div, and inside that div, we're going to add in an icon. These should be H3s inside of here. My service card. Okay, we're good there. I'm going to create my BEM classes for this. And let's start styling it out. Our background is going to be white. Our radius is going to be radius. Our padding we'll go with space M. I believe that's what I used on this. I double check. Yep, space M on that. On my icon wrapper, I'm going to go order of -1, put that to the top. Change my inline size to max content so it hugs that. My icon itself is it's like about a height of 45. Actually, I'll just set the inline size on that. And this will go 45 pixels. I am going to strip the colors on that. My color of this is going to be our primary color. Helps if I type that properly. Okay, primary, our icon wrapper, background is going to be primary ultra light. And on this, we want our size to be And I'm going to duplicate that, paste it, change this to block size. We're going to flex this center, center, add a radius onto that. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Next, we are going to get into the rest of this here. My CTA, I'm going to add in button primary. That's going to say learn more. I think I'm pretty happy with our card itself. Oh yeah, I do need to put in our box shadow on our card. And we can go box shadow M, I think is the right one. Let's double check this on the front end. Yeah, it looks like we have a little bit of a box shadow there. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and take our card. I'm going to make this into a component. I'm going to add in some props here. We're going to have our heading, our description, our button text, and our link. And then for our media, we'll have our icon. Go heading, description, CTA, link, and icon. Let's go ahead and connect these, our heading, our description, our CTA, our link. I'm just going to put a pound sign in there, and an icon I'm going to leave blank right now. Someone did give me some notes on inside of Happy Files. There should be settings to enforce loading, and that should help save some issues with when we go into here properly. So I'm going to hit save quick, and we're going to have to come back to our component because everything else I think is going to be, actually one thing I do need to do is on my heading inside of this, I need to actually add in a link here. And if I take this and put it inside here, we should be good to go. Take that out. And now we can see that is clickable. I'm going to hit save because I just want to get some data in here before we finish styling out all of that. Okay. Other thing I need to do now is add some classes to this. I'm going to go I think for this, I'm just going to go service list and BEM class this. Actually, I can just right click, create BEM classes for me. You can see it gets rid of that indentation that it had from normal list styling. This I want to be a grid. We're going to add in the has me selector, and we're going to add in a container query and figure out what's going to make sense, that everything over probably, maybe let's start with 850 is going to be grid template columns of grid 2. So if I add in another item here, make this a little bit bigger. My container size needs to be, there it is. Perfect. I think that works pretty good for full size here. I'm happy with that. I want it to be grid 2. In my diagram here, I had these as a little bit smaller, but I actually want them to go full width inside of my tabs here. I think that just looks a little bit better. I'm happy with my standard grid gap on this. And then as we narrow these down, I think eventually we'll end up as stacked on these. I may come back and change that a little bit, but for now, I'm happy with that. Okay, I'm going to delete one of these. I'm going to hit save because now we are going to loop this. So I'm going to right click this, wrap in a loop. And for this, we're going to have to create another loop. So I'm going to hit the plus up here. This one I'm going to call my service child. We're going to change our post to services. Again, I'm going to copy this over. Then for this one, I want to add in another item in here because we need to now only get our child post. So for that, we're going to go post parent. And I'm going to set up an argument for this one, and I'm going to call it parent. Put a comment. I like these as ascending. And we should be good there. All right, I'm going to hit save on that one. I'm going to come back here. Now inside my loop, I want to set this to service child. You can see our loop is service child as item. I'm going to change this to child just so I can differentiate our main loop from this one. And the other thing I need to do is add in our loop argument. So for this one, I am going to set my parent to item.id. So what that's doing is it's pulling the ID from my main loop here. So it's going and getting the item.id, and what I could probably do is change that to parent, but for now I'm just going to leave it as item, and that way we're pulling the proper child items for that parent. So we should be good on that one. Next, we can start entering in our dynamic data here. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items, and that should be the proper number there. I can go back and double check that if I need to. All right, so in our component, from here, my heading needs to be child.title. So you can see we're getting our title now. Our description is going to be child.description. And actually I need to change that child.metabox.description or service overview. There we go. Helps if you type the right thing. I'm going to leave learn more as is. And for the link, I need to set this to child.permalink.relative. My icon, we are also going to set to child. I believe it was service icon. Let me double check that. Service icon, metabox dot service icon dot permalink, and I think we can go relative on that. And that did not change anything. Let's drop off the relative. Just want to check my dynamic data here. Yeah, permalink.relative should be the right one for that part. I might have to test this out in a second. I want to hit save and check the front end and just see what we have going on here. If I hover over my link, that is not actually working right here, but I am getting all the right services. So let's double check something. On my description, we can use a little bit of a cheat code here sometimes. And it's not actually going to show that for me. Okay. Service.icon. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm missing on this. Let me troubleshoot this for a second. All right, so I think I need to go back into my component here and double check this. I'm pretty sure I forgot my link. Yep, I did. So this needs to be props.link. And hit save there. I'm going to double check my icon that I have that set, and I don't. props.icon. Helps if you set these. My apologies for that. All right, let's exit that. Now our link should be working there, and for our actual icon here, permalink.relative. I feel like that should have worked. Let me take this out completely. And when in doubt, we can always go up to our loop, expand this out, and we can search through our items here. So we'll have to scroll down a bit, figure out where this is actually coming in. So we are going to want our service icon.url is what we're looking for. That's always an easy shortcut, is just looking at the JSON to figure out what makes sense. You have to figure out, so we hit metabox, our service icon, and the URL is what we're looking for. All right, get out of here. Back down to our icon in here. .url. And go relative. So it's asking me to put in an extra dot there, which shouldn't be exactly what I'm looking for. Full. So we may have to use some data modifiers in order to get that. Let's double check this again on my loop. And drag this over. So I should just be able to go with my URL, and that should work. But I'm not positive why. When we do that, okay, it does work when we just leave it as URL. So my apologies on that one. All right, now let's come back to our final styling here on our card. Edit component. You can see we're not actually able to see our icons now. So on these, I know I use color. I may also need to use fill, and I'm just gonna copy and paste this. Hit save. We'll double check on the front end. You can see that is working properly now on those. Next, we want to get our actual focus set up. For my headings, we have these as dark text. I think I'll actually end up changing that a little bit. So on my heading, I'm going to go text decoration of none. And I may need to do that actually on the anchor. link dot service card link. Okay, take that off of there. Color, we're going to go primary ultra dark, just so it's in that same color range as our secondary color. I'm going to hit save on that. All right, now if we come over to our service card, I actually think we do this on the link itself. I always forget where to put this, so I always have to come back and try it. So we put in our question mark. We can look at our different recipes here, and if we want clickable parent, we can do that there. So we may have to move this. Let's double check it. Yes, we need to move it. That's a simple copy and paste. Sometimes you just need to go through and double check how you're doing things. All right, and then underneath that, we're gonna go with focus parent as well. I'm gonna hit save, refresh on the front end, and now you can see anywhere on this card when we hover, we can see we can click anywhere. And then I can actually focus on it as well, and that works. I think what I'm going to do is change that hover color on my actual link here as well. And the other thing we could actually do too is, instead of redefining the color and adding in a hover pseudonym here, is I can actually just target my link hover color, and I can set this to be the same thing. I may have to double check that. Inspect. And if we go to hover on that, link color hover. Okay. I always get them backwards. Perfect. Now you can see that's working as desired. Double check again on the front end here. And I think we're good to go. With those cards being that big, we could maybe even see what they end up looking like as we get smaller. If it'll make sense to go down to two at a smaller size, but maybe I'll leave that for now. I think I'm pretty happy with how those are looking. I do need to set up a little bit better spacing on all of this, which is going to be outside of my service card. So I'm gonna hit save, make sure that saves properly. I'm going to exit. And then back on my panel here, We're set to content gap. And it doesn't seem like that's actually changing it all for me. And let's see why that might be. So that's my problem, is my loop got inside of my content here. There we go. Now, our content gap is showing properly. Helps if you put those in the proper place. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. So now we can see that we've got our cards showing. One thing to note inside the builder, you'll see that every panel is going to be showing as you edit, but once we get to the front end, it's not actually doing that. But you can see that we're getting all of these showing up properly, and we're getting the correct ones, which is great. On these, we're not getting a different icon because we haven't set that at all yet, but I think we're good to go here. I may come back later and play with the sizing of our cards here and see if we can get a little bit better of a fit. But right now, I'm pretty happy with how we're looking on that. And I think that'll conclude this video. So we have our intro component again. We built out our tab. We have a service card component now. We're doing a handful of different loops. Again, if you need the freebie for the tabs, you can come into the circle group and grab that here. You'll end up having to change stuff in order to make it work because of how the loops are set up, but at least you can have a good starting point for how to set that up and make it work for you with the loop. If you don't want to loop it, you can just take the loops out and move everything that's inside of them just outside of the loop inside the same part and just manually build them out, and it'll do the same thing for you. The JavaScript will work either way, whether there's a loop or not, and then just stylize it to make it what you need it to do. Hope you enjoyed that video. Let me know if you have questions in the comments below. Otherwise, please drop a like, subscribe, and stick around for the rest of the build out here. Thanks.